4, 3, 2.
Hey everybody, Grant Miller here, Miami Community Newspapers, with our favorite congressperson, Donna Shalala. How you doing today?
Just fine, Grant.
You know, before we get to politics, people want to know if you're a regular person. First, what college did you go to?
I went to a small women's college in Southern Ohio on a lot of scholarships, and I worked my way through college, and I actually had loans when I left college.
Okay, who is your favorite teacher in college?
Oh, in college?
Or in high school or middle school?
Actually, it was
Excuse
my
me,
kindergarten teacher, Miss Goodwin.
Wow.
She figured me out. She figured out that I had so much energy, she had to run me around for the first hour, sending me on errands and things just to get the edge off my energy, and then I could settle in.
I think I had that same problem. In high school, my teacher used to give me a hall pass and say, come back in an hour. All right, so what was the kindergarten teacher's name?
Miss Goodwin.
Miss Goodwin. Wow. You got any other, do you remember any of the other teachers?
Oh, yeah. Miss Barrier in college, Professor Barrier, she was a Southerner who taught sociology, and she taught me about race. And to learn about race and culture of minorities from a Southerner was a really humanizing experience, because she had grown up in segregation. Her parents were prejudiced, and she both outgrew it, but she would explain that along with all the scholarly material we had to cover.
Interesting.
It had a big impact on me.
Regarding, you played softball in Ohio, right?
I did.
Now, this is something most people don't know. Who's your softball coach?
George Steinbrenner,
Owner of the Yankees.
owner of the Yankees. Oh, he was a young college student. He was very cute. I was 9 years old. I was madly in love with him. He was very cute. He loved young people. His whole life, he loved young people. But the story is, we were playing softball, my friends and I, and he was the playground director of the playground across the street from where I lived in Cleveland. And he came over and he said, hey, you girls are pretty good, but you've got to learn how to slide and to throw overhand. And there's a new city championship, and I think you can win it. And we said, we don't have a coach. He said, I'll coach you. And he did, and we won the city championship.
And then from there, what did he do? How did he get into the Yankees?
His family owned a shipping company in Cleveland, so he was enormously wealthy. And I think he parlayed that and took his millions and bought the Yankees. But he always loved sports, and he was always deeply involved in sports. In Cleveland and afterwards, but particularly in youth sports. He used to send me a check when I came to Miami every year for our baseball team.
Wow. So
Anonymously. He never wanted his name on it.
That was like Seinfeld. There's a show called Anonymous. That's a funny thing. Okay, we're gonna get to some politics. You grew up in Cleveland, right?
I did.
And then where'd you go after you moved from Cleveland?
Well, I went to college from Cleveland in Southern Ohio, and after that I went off to the Peace Corps in Iran. I lived in a mud village, no running water.
How long?
Very little sanitation, and I spent 2 years in a mud village in Southern Iran, teaching English, working with the villagers. And from there, I wandered around the world for a year.
Did you learn the native tongue while you were there?
I did, Farsi and Arabic.
2 languages there.
Well, I knew some Arabic because my family's Lebanese.
But still, it was quite an experience.
Well, quite an experience, because you were living, in a mud village, very isolated, long before cell phones. I didn't talk to my parents for 2 years, but lots of letters that went back and forth.
And how long did the letters take? Weeks to get back?
Weeks, I think.
Wow.
Weeks to get back. But it was an extraordinary experience.
And you lived in one of the colleges. You lived in Madison, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the colleges I had was the University of Wisconsin at Madison.
That is a beautiful, beautiful campus.
Oh, in fact, I learned a lot about that campus because it was built around the lake.
Right.
So when I got to Miami, I kept saying to people, why are we building buildings without windows along the lake? We have to take advantage of the lake, build patios, and all of the new buildings at the university including the way you can walk around the lake, really come out of my experience in Madison.
One of the funniest movies ever was Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield.
That
was filmed there.
Yeah, with the swimming pool and everything else. No, Madison was a wonderful place, and I learned a lot in a world-class research university. From there, I went into the Clinton administration and then came down here to Miami.
Okay, let's get to congressional issues, state issues, national issues, healthcare and COVID. What do you think about the healthcare in the healthcare in the country? How do you think we're doing with the COVID issues?
It's been a disaster. It's been chaotic. It's not been disciplined from the federal point of view. The president has been anti-science, consistently anti-science, and he's still doing it. He's still not saying to people, you've got to wear masks. It's tragic because we've had too many unnecessary deaths because we have not had strong national leadership. It's been mishandled from the beginning by the president and by the vice president. And everybody knows that, and I think the polls actually reflect that. More importantly, they've shifted it to the governors, which means some governors have taken strong responsibility and others have just been meek, like our own governor.
What, you tweeted out yesterday, this week, HIPAA. What is that?
This is the Healthcare Privacy Act, basically. And what it says, I wrote it. The legislation passed in '96, and then we wrote the regulations to implement it. What it says is your healthcare information can only be used for healthcare purposes, for research without identifying you, for your doctor to treat you, but it cannot be given to other people. So the controversy here was that the president's doctor got up and said, I can't tell you that, I can't tell you that. He was not totally transparent about the president's illness because he hid behind HIPAA. Well, here's the rule. He can't release any information without the president's position. The president has to say to him, okay, you can tell them everything. The patient has to tell the doctor or the hospital or the insurance company or their pharmacist or their physical therapist, yes, you can tell the press everything. The president clearly does not want us to know all the details. So doctor stands up there and says, well, I can tell you this, but not this, because the president told him to tell this, but not this. So that's what that rule is about. It protects us. It protects the patient from any kind of disclosure or using that information by their employer. But it's controversial now because everybody believes that the President of the United States ought to be totally transparent about his health because it's a national security issue. I agree with that.
Private schools and public schools are back. Public schools have to go back. Parents are worried. A huge percentage are worried. Is it safe to send kids back to school?
It depends on the school, and it depends on the school district and what kind of safety precautions they've put in place. Let me tell you, if you look in the hallway of any school in this country, particularly high schools, you've got crowds. People are crowded together. So schools have had to adjust to that. They've had to separate kids. They've had to introduce new sanitation measures. I told the superintendent one day that when I was in the Peace Corps, kids that went to elementary school in the developing world had water basins outside their schools. They had to wash their hands before they went into school. Because of infectious diseases, the public health people had long learned that. My concern is we have not put enough resources into our schools to help them be organized. We don't have enough protective equipment, PPE. We don't have enough structural changes in the schools. We have that money. We've given some of it to the schools. We have it in a bill that we passed in the House of Representatives, but in which neither the president nor the Republicans in the Senate will pass. So making the schools safe requires a lot of steps, including protections for the teachers and for the kids. Let me also say that it's very difficult to keep the kids safe when there's community spread. You've got to get your numbers below 5%, but way below 5%. New York opened at 1%, and it's still having challenges.
Correct.
So when you have community spread, it's very difficult to open the schools. But I think the governor ordering schools is wrong. It ought to be clearly a local decision by school boards, by the parents, by the superintendent, by the educators locally, as opposed to a mandate across the board. Rural areas in Florida may be in a different situation than we are in a hot spot like South Florida.
Yeah, some of the private schools started weeks ago, and they did 2 days on, half this class, clean the school, the other half. So it seems like it's working, and the superintendent and Dade County is trying their best, and it's very difficult.
And very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive. It really requires additional resources, and community spread just doesn't help. But we all want the kids to go back to school. We can't get the economy going until we get the kids back to school.
Correct. I see on television, you talk about getting our economy back on track. How are we going to do that?
Only by eliminating community spread, only by getting control of the virus. But it's more than that. Miami Beach, which I represent among other communities, has 90,000 residents. Last year they had 10 million visitors. That's their economy. That's much of the economy of Miami-Dade County. It's the visitors we need to come back. You really want to bring the economy back? You have to bring the visitors back. And that means they have to perceive us as being a very safe place to visit, to take a cruise, to come to a convention. Only then, because we're so dependent on tourist trade. I represent the port of Miami as well with the cruise lines. I represent part of the airport, and we're so dependent on tourism. We can bring part of the economy back, part of the local economy, but to bring it all back, it has to do with getting our arms around COVID and really starving this virus.
You know, you said there's 10 million. That's 200,000 people a week that goes to Miami Beach that don't live there. That's unbelievable.
Well, and it explains why the restaurants are in trouble, why the hotels are in trouble. But that's just Miami Beach. If you look at downtown Miami, if you look at the other parts of our community that also depend on some level of tourism, if you look at the small businesses that are connected to the cruise lines, to the restaurants, agriculture, you start to understand that containing COVID is the first step to reopening the economy.
Well, you know, so you brought up agriculture. People don't realize Homestead and Redland, where they grow stuff, they sell to the port here. They're starving. They can't make sales to the cruise lines.
And they sell to the restaurants, the local restaurants as
absolutely.
well. We've provided some help from the Department of Agriculture to buy those products so that we can put them in boxes and distribute them free to those who need food. And that's the other thing. We have people that don't have enough food. When you don't have money to buy food, that's our responsibility. It's their taxpayer money. We've got to take care of them and of the children in our community.
Well, we now know that the debate's not going to be held next week, the president's debate. But Mayor Suarez came up front and said, Trump, you got it, don't come.
Well, they've offered to do it remotely,
right?
But apparently the president has rejected that. But look, he rejects things one day, and then the next day, you know, he gets some pressure and he decides to do it. So the problem is we really don't know how sick he is.
We don't know when it started either.
We just don't have those facts. And it's in large part because he won't tell us.
Right. The debate last night, Harris versus Pence, your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, he didn't answer any questions. I've never seen, he was an artful dodger last night. I thought she was terrific. I thought she made the case on COVID that they had totally mishandled COVID-19 and that millions of people around the world had gotten infected. Millions of people in the United States, hundreds of thousands of people have died and will die because they continue to mismanage this disease. He's very smooth, the vice president, but he didn't answer the questions. I mean, he was asked questions directly, and he just literally an artful dodger.
The moderator did a great job. When you thought Pence went way over, it was only a couple seconds, but the moderator made sure that Harris got her equal time.
And Harris was very good at telling him that it was her time, not putting up with him talking over her the way President Trump had done with Joe Biden. I thought she was quite disciplined. But of course, I'm a Harris fan. But I thought Susan Page did a terrific job.
She did outstanding. This week, Joe and Jill Biden were in town. You showed them around Little Havana, Miami. What did they talk about? Like, where did you show them? Where did you take them?
I saw them in Little Havana. They went to Little Haiti as well as Little Havana.
Where in Little Havana did they go?
They actually went to the Jose Marti
Park.
Marti Center, and I met them there, had a very nice conversation with them about COVID, about education, and about the economy.
We have two comments. Kristen Hernandez. I love how Harris emphasized all the respectful Republicans supporting Biden-Harris ticket. Kristen Rosen Gonzalez, former Miami Beach commissioner. I love how she smiled and looked at Pence and says, "I'm speaking." And Harris kept saying that. It's my turn. I'm speaking. Harris controlled the debate.
She did. And she made sure that the vice president didn't run over her.
Okay, regarding your campaign, J.C. Plantis, a Republican, former state rep, filed an official complaint with the FEC, that's the Federal Election Committee, claiming that your opponent violated some campaign financial laws, and she forgot to include some information about donors. And I'm a little confused about your opponent. I see ads that she says, I arrived here with $5 or $4 in her pocket. She was born here, if I'm correct.
Yes, she was born
here.
here.
So I don't know where she came from with $4, but when I came to Miami, I was born here too. I came with $2 all the way from Chicago. Michael, how much did you come with?
$17.34.
Okay, so what was it? What?
I don't know. Someone, maybe when she was born, her grandmother handed her $5. Who knows? She was born here in Miami. She did not come here from Cuba with $5 in her pocket. And, it's just a lie. In terms of the suit that we filed, here's the importance. These Republicans, whether it's the President of the United States or Salazar, they don't want to give you all the information. Here's the importance of not violating federal election laws. Federal election laws say you've got to tell us who your donors are, and you can't have part of the information. You've got to give us not just their name, but you've got to identify their profession, their address. 40% of her donors we know nothing about. That's a violation of federal election laws, and that's why J.C. Plantis filed the complaint, because she's trying to hide information about who her donors are.
But your office just received some award?
Oh, yes.
What is it for?
Well, as literally as the best congressional office in the country. One Republican and one Democrat was chosen by a panel and looked at all the congressional offices, and we won the award as the best office. Constituent service, as well as how we ran our office. And I'm very proud of that, because no representative in South Florida has ever won that award. And it means that as a freshman, freshmen don't win those awards. But as a freshman, I'm the first freshman ever to win that award.
Well, what's unique is the congressperson before you was Ileana Ross-Layton, who is well known for that. She worked the district, and it's tough. You have big shoes to fit on that, and you did it already in one term. I mean, Ileana worked her community, and you're doing it in 1 year, your freshman year. So congratulations to your office and your staff.
Well, thanks.
And your team is outstanding.
Yeah, it really is my team that did it. I'm very proud of them. To be, a finalist, to win this award is a big deal. And it says to the community that I kept my promise. I hit the ground running. We have not missed a beat in terms of constituent service since Ileana stepped down. And she's a longtime friend of mine. She did a wonderful job. And it's just been a very smooth transition.
Yeah, by the way, across the street of her house is one of her kids who have 5 grandchildren. So they're very busy, her and Dexter. And they teach law at what Dexter does, right?
Well, the two of them have been teaching a course in politics, in political science.
We had Dexter.
Must be fascinating.
We had Dexter on yesterday talking about congressional, things about the president on the election, and he went over a couple of amendments, acting president, acting vice president. It was very interesting. Okay, one of your big campaign issues was addressing traffic. Have you accomplished anything with that? And what in the future, what are we going to do?
Yeah, we actually did get money into our community to try to speed up traffic. As you well know, you can sit on US 1 forever. And getting those lights coordinated, certainly the community has started to do that. That's the first step in a transportation bill. But when we get back in January, we're going to have a big infrastructure bill that will help Miami-Dade get more public transportation and streamline the movement of traffic in our community. But I certainly did make the effort that I promised.
One of the issues we have here, people talk about socialists, and we have Venezuela and Cuba. What have you done, or what are you going to do to support the democratic way in those
Well,
countries?
let me be very clear. I'm a capitalist, pragmatic capitalist. I believe in certain social programs like Social Security and Medicare, but I have been a leading critic of Maduro in Venezuela. I have been strongly opposed to the existing Cuban government and the fact that they have no free speech. They've literally sold their doctors into slavery around the world, and took that money to support their government, and so that my strong views on the governments or the regimes of Cuba, Venezuela, of Nicaragua are well known. And I have even criticized my own party. I criticized one of the presidential candidates, Bernie Sanders, about his position on Maduro in Venezuela. I have zero tolerance for those that would side with these regimes, with these snakes that destroy their countries.
There's some issues of flooding. Miami Beach is flooding a lot, downtown Miami. Key Biscayne is working on climate change. They're trying to pass a bond for $100 million. How can we work on those issues?
Well, we want a green infrastructure bill. And I have testified before that committee twice now, explaining the situation on the beach in Key Biscayne, explaining that we need resources to build walls, seawalls, to raise streets, to buy pumps. But also I'm a strong supporter. Representative Kathy Castor from Tampa has chaired the big environmental committee for the Democrats, and we're going to have a series of legislation, very specific things that will help. But the infrastructure bill has to be green so that we bring resources back here to deal with these issues of flooding, but also of sea level rise immediately.
I tell everybody why Miami and Miami-Dade County is so successful is in the early 1900s, the Bahamians came over. They were the workforce. They built Miami. Then, and we go through our whole country, and not country, in Miami-Dade. In the 60s, when the Cubans came over, they built Miami. The next nationality came over. The next nationality, all fleeting countries that had problems to make Miami-Dade a great community. And there's nowhere else in the world. If you drive up, let's use Bird Road, there's Cuban steak, American steak, Nicaraguan steak, Venezuelan steak, Argentina steak. Miami is the melting pot of the United States, and we all love it. I've been here only 63 years, born here with $3 in my pocket. I was born at Jackson Memorial. I think Dr. Yale was my mother's gynecologist. Did you know that, Michael?
I did.
And guess what my middle name became? Yale. Did you know that, Michael?
I didn't know that.
So he put $3 in my pocket. So, born at Jackson, we love Miami. It's the greatest place in the world.
You know, my mother's family has lived here since 1947.
Your
so
mother.
my grandparents were here since right after World War II. My aunts and uncles, my cousins. You knew one of my cousins who, Pat Smith.
This is crazy. So, when I met the Congresswoman before she was a congressperson, we were talking. She asked me about my history, and I said, well, I was coaching at Columbus in 78, 79, and this guy from the Boys Club, the president of as a volunteer, Pat Smith, hired me. That was your cousin.
My first cousin.
Yeah, who played at Georgia, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, but he went to Coral Gables High School.
Oh, that's
and then went to play at Georgia on championship teams.
Your oldest living relative. How old was it?
My mother, she lived 104.
104. So we got another 8, 10 good years out of you.
Oh, yes. No
Boy, that
question
engine's
about it.
good. Okay. We do this little thing, little game, and we'll see. I got one more statement, but I'm going to wait. You have to pay attention quickly because it's real quick. Your favorite politician as a kid?
My favorite?
When I say, it could be kid, high school, college, your favorite one. Not Abe Lincoln. Give me somebody else.
I think it was John Kennedy.
Okay. John Kennedy is number one. Number two was Reagan, Kennedy, and Winston Churchill. Your favorite burger place in Miami?
Oh, my God.
We went to the burger place on Coral Way.
Shake Shack.
Okay. Your favorite hot dog place?
Oh, we went to the hot dog place.
Arbetters.
Arbetters.
Okay.
The best.
Where is your favorite restaurant you eat fish at?
Oh, I go to Joe's Stone Crab.
Ah, wow. But you know what's better than their fish? Their chicken. You know what's better than their chicken? Their brownie about this big and ice cream this tall. Not that you can't tell.
Let me tell you about their chicken. Joe's he donated chicken for the first responder, for the essential workers at South Miami Hospital, and I delivered Joe's Stone Crab chicken to them.
Okay, so the next question, your favorite chicken? I guess it's Joe's.
Yeah.
Here's a tough question. Your superhero as a kid?
Wonder Woman.
Ah, that's it, baby. Okay. Your favorite pizza place?
I actually love pizza at Miami's Best Pizza, which is right on Ponce now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is a little slanted because they just opened. What's your favorite sushi place?
Oh, Sushi Maki, of course.
You hear that, Abe? By the way, Alan, the father, 80 years old, still works full time.
Yeah.
And he drives. I love it. Okay. As a kid, do you remember your favorite Thanksgiving?
Oh, yes.
Certain year?
Yes. When I was really little, in the 1950s, when my uncle came back from Korea, every member of my family has served in the military, and we had a glorious Thanksgiving at my grandmother's, and I'm Lebanese, so they stuffed the turkey with a lamb and rice and a little cinnamon, and it was just, I just will remember that forever.
By the way, okay, next question. As a kid, what was your favorite Christmas gift? Or as an adult?
No, it was a bike.
Do you remember what grade you were in?
I think I was 9.
So, as you know, my brother, he's behind the screen. So, I don't know, it was 8, 9, 10, 11, I don't remember. So my brother gives me a Christmas gift. The box was this big. It was giant. And I dive into the box. I'm pulling out the wrapping paper. Boom, boom. In the bottom of the box was a baseball. That's my brother. Okay.
Was it signed by anyone,
No,
at least?
No. No, not my brother. Okay. Your favorite taco place?
I make tacos myself, so I actually...
so we know to have tacos at your house.
Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite football team?
The Canes.
Go Canes. Oh, that's the question. I didn't have it. Who is your favorite player? Or your favorite player to watch?
Brett Romberg.
He has a show here. He comes in at 1 o'clock today. He's not just a football jock. He is smart.
He's smart.
Smart.
He saw the whole field.
Yeah, some people don't realize sometimes it's set in college. There's some centers that call the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're not going to do that one. Okay. Who's your favorite coach? Because you had some great coaches at UM. Then you had Barry Alvarez. Didn't you hire him?
Yeah, probably Barry Alvarez. He taught me more early in my career. He was my first coach, my first Division I coach, and he taught me so much. One of the things he taught me is that you always should hire a defensive coordinator as your coach because they know the offense. Interesting.
Very interesting. So, Christina Hernandez, we're going to go over it, what you're going to talk about. The reason community newspapers endorsed you 2 years ago and this election and every election is you're not just a Democrat, you're not just a Republican, you are the people's choice. And we at community newspapers believe that you're a bipartisan candidate and you do best for everybody in Dade County. And you represent Dade County first, your district, but you represent all the United States, and you understand that. We appreciate all the work you've done and all the work you're going to do. And we tell everybody, make sure they vote. As we suggest, get your absentees, send them in, or go early voting. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right,
we have lots of ways to vote. We
have a ton of people watching. I'm not usually announce them out, but we're not today. I want you to look at that camera there and close this out. This one here. Close this out. Tell us how to vote.
Well, there are 4 ways you can vote. You can obviously vote on Election Day on November 3rd. You can vote early. It starts on October 19th, and there'll be lots of early voting sites in our community. And there are 2 ways you can, one way is to vote from home. That is, you can mail in your ballot. But you also can take that ballot during early voting and drop it off. So 4 ways in which you can safely vote in our community.
Well, I as a Miami-Dade resident, I have full confidence in our supervisor of elections, Mrs. White, is her name?
She's terrific, yeah.
She is really taking it by the horn, and I think she's going to do a great job. Feel confident when you vote. Make sure you get all your friends to vote, all your children to vote. And thank you for being here. Everybody, Grant Miller here with Donna Shalala. Have a great day.